Okay, so this is the first video in the spider locomotion tutorial. Now we've already created a project, we've already set to that project, so now we're going to do some animation. So I'm going to go to the standard animation saved layout, which gives me something looking like that, and I'm going to animate this spider from left to right, so I want the orthographic side view looking like that, left to right, and graph editor underneath. Okay, so far so good, our standard animation layout. And now we want to do some animation. And with this week's exercise, I've given you a project brief telling you step by step what to do. Because this is actually, what we're going to do is essentially animate one curve, that is to say, one curve on the spider's leg, and then we're going to copy and paste that curve throughout the rig. So it's a clever and highly efficient system, and if we get it right, we should get some very nice animation done very, very quickly. So back to our notes, set the timeline from 1 to 17. That's because we're on a 16 frame cycle, and we want to animate the front left leg on a 16 frame cycle, where frame 1 is the front leg contact, frame 9 the leg is in the back position, and frame 17 it's back in the front leg contact again. And of course we want to turn on infinity curves. And so the first thing to do is to get one leg working. So front left leg, that would be this fellow here. And let's first set our timeline from 1 to 17 since it's a 16 frame cycle. And let's go and select that front left leg. And that's probably already in the contact position since it's hitting the ground. And I'm going to hit S there to set a key at frame 1. Now middle mouse drag that to 17, release and hit S again, and that will set a key from 1 to 17, because of course this is a cycle, so therefore 1 and 17 should be the same. Frame 9 is where the leg is going back, so I'm going to hold down my shift key and set S there, a frame 9, and now we have something that looks like that. So now let's go ahead and turn, just going to hit A in the graph editor so we can see all the curves, and let's turn on our infinity curves. Pre-infinity cycle, post-infinity cycle, view, infinity, and let's hit A again. So now we've got some sort of infinity going on there, okay, so now we want the foot then needs to rise up at frame 13, because of course it's going to lift off the ground in order to move the animal forward. So this is pretty much what it should look like, although it actually wants to be, that curve wants to be completely straight between 1 and 9. So I'm just going to go to Translate Z, and I'm actually going to just make sure that that is completely flat, because what's happening here from 1 to 9 is this foot is on an imaginary treadmill, and that should be traveling forward at a completely even speed. And then here at 17 we want a bit of a slow in. So actually what I'll do is break that tangent. So we've got, and then just grab that handle there, and then have that slow in like that. Let's do the same thing here, tangent, break tangent, and let's make that slow in and hit A. Okay, so let's just see what that looks like. Okay, that's better. So what we've done essentially is animate a little bit of an ease in, so that as this foot comes forward, it eases in slightly, but it's not easing in on the treadmill bit when the foot is underneath the body. Okay, so that's our basic spider walk. That's one leg walking. And once you get this right, once you get this working acceptably, I suggest that you go ahead and save your work. So I'm going to go ahead and save my work there. and I'm going to make that version 2. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is go back to our notes and find the next stage. So now we want to copy the leg that's working and paste that onto the front right leg on. And then we're going to turn infinity curves on that leg and slide the curves by 8 frames. And the two legs should now be animating in opposition to each other. Now I assume at this stage that you've already watched the theory video on spider locomotion. If you haven't watched that, you should go ahead and do so. So here I'm going to hit A on this control here, and I'm going to copy. Whoops! I'm going to copy these curves, drag select all of those, go to Edit, Copy, and now I'm going to paste it onto this foot here. I'm going to set a keyframe at the beginning so we've got something to paste onto. Then go to Edit and Paste, and that should paste those curves directly onto that front right foot. Good, and it has done so. And now I need to turn on my infinity curves again. So curves pre-infinity cycle, curves post-infinity cycle, and that should work fine. Just hit A just to make sure that we've got everything. And now, and here comes the clever bit, we're going to grab these curves here on this front right foot. So I'm going to grab all of those curves, and I'm holding down the Shift key and the middle mouse button. I'm going to move them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 frames over. So now we're going to have those 2 feet opposing one another. And this is the genius of infinity curves. Even though on this foot we now actually only have our animation curves starting at frame 9, because of the infinity curves, Maya fills in the gap before and after. So now we have 2 legs opposing one another. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and save it again. File, Save Scene As, Ra Walk 3. Anytime I get to a point where I'm happy with my work, I go ahead and I save it. And you can't really do too much of that. Okay, so once we've got that working, let's go ahead and go back to our notes. Step 3, we've done front right leg. Copy and paste the front pair of legs onto the third pair of legs. No offset is required. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So now that's this pair of legs here, because remember they're going to be identical to this pair if you've watched the theory video. So going back to frame 1, I'm going to set a keyframe, select that keyframe and go Edit, Paste. And turn on infinity curves, curves pre-infinity cycle, curves post-infinity cycle. There we go. There we have it. Now, actually, that's looking slightly odd. Why is that looking odd? So possibly this is overextending here. So I'm actually going to take that translate Z and slightly ease it off. There's no reason why we can't make adjustments to these curves. We're not, and actually, in fact, I'm going to undo that, because I think what we want to do is remove that whole curve slightly so it's more like that. What I'm doing here is I'm holding down the Shift key and the middle mouse button to move that whole curve upwards. There we go, that's better. So we get a more attractive reach there. Okay, now what's the next stage? Next stage is copy and paste the front pair of legs onto the second set and then offset. Okay, so now we're going to copy onto this set of legs. So again, to frame 1, hit S, select that keyframe, Edit, Paste, select all those keys, infinity curves on, curves post infinity cycle, and now I'm going to move them 8 frames. So going to the move tool, holding down the shift key with my left hand, and now I'm middle mouse dragging 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now seeing what we've got. Okay, so now we've got some intersection here between the second pair and the third pair. So let's just go to that point where that's happening. That's around about there. So now what I'm going to do is actually we just want the translate Z. So I'm going to hit A, zoom out a bit, and I'm going to do the same thing. So if I hold down the shift key and then middle mouse, you see I can move this around so that that whole curve is shunted upwards. And now, maybe that was a little bit too much. Let me just back it off a little bit, just a squish. Okay, there we go. So that's looking fine. Those 3 curves are doing fine. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and save that. Again, walk 4, save as, continue, and I will continue with the legs in the next video.